Thank you very much, Chairman Hatch, and it's good to be working with you and to have the ambassador here. Today's global economy seems to move at 1,000,000 miles an hour, so clinging to yesterday's outdated trade policies is a loser for the millions of middle-class American workers counting on political leadership to create more high-skill, high-wage jobs. Trade agreements need to bulldoze the trade barriers and open new markets to exports made by America's middle class, the things we grow or raise, build or forge. Done right, trade agreements can help grow the paychecks of middle-class families. That can help take our economic recovery from a walk to a sprint. According to a report by the Commerce Department's International Trade Administration, many export-driven jobs, from precision welding to engineering design, offer higher pay and more generous benefits than jobs that are not tied to exports. American workers who design and build products like machinery, electrical gear, or transportation equipment can get into the winner's circle when the goods they make are exported. The goal of trade agreements should be to take the fruits of American labor and to ship them to markets around the world. That said, it is easy to understand why many American workers are frustrated when they haven't seen a meaningful pay raise in decades. Or worse, they've lost their job and fallen out of the middle class. When discouraged Americans argue they've been hurt by trade, those voices must not be ignored. Those voices have to be heard, and those who favor a trade agenda that takes on the challenges of a hyper-competitive global economy have a responsibility to make the case that it's going to work for the middle class. I'm raising that issue especially because the President said during the State of the Union address, and I quote, "Past trade deals haven't always lived up to the hype," unquote. So I'm looking forward to the ambassador outlining today how the administration plans to change that with fresh policies that are going to lift wages, help create middle-class jobs, and expand the winner's circle. It's also important to hear what safeguards are going to be in place to ensure that any workers impacted by trade have access to retraining, health coverage, and other sources of support that connect them to new opportunities. Briefly, I'm going to wrap up by mentioning three key issues. The first is there must be tough trade law enforcement. There's never been a greater need for the U.S. to back its workers and businesses by strongly enforcing our trade laws and agreements. And in the face of unfair schemes by foreign governments and companies that undercut our jobs and our exports, trade enforcement is essential. Just ask any one of the hundreds of workers who work in my state at Solar World, a solar panel manufacturer. When the Chinese made an end run around our trade laws that threatened Solar World and its employees, the company fought back and won. That victory preserves 900 good-paying Oregon jobs. And American trade enforcers have to keep at it because China and other governments won't stop trying to get around the trade laws anytime soon. With 21st century trade agreements, tough enforcement also needs to hold foreign governments accountable for commitments to uphold strong labor rights and environmental protections. Those are bedrock elements of a trade agreement, and they cannot be ignored or pushed to the sidelines. The second issue to address is technology. Just as containers changed trade in the 20th century, the Internet is changing trade in the 21st, enabling more efficient ways to exchange goods and services internationally. 3 decades ago, an entrepreneur with big dreams in a town like Mount Vernon, Oregon, with a population of 500, didn't have the Internet as a tool to access global markets. Today, that entrepreneur does, and that access could be direct or through Internet platforms. The nation's trade policies must take advantage of economic areas where there is clearly advantage USA. That means promoting and protecting a free and open Internet, keeping open what is, in my view, the shipping lane of the 21st century. The last point I want to mention is transparency. The American people have made it clear they are not going to accept secretly written agreements that don't see the light of day until the very last minute. That was too often the way things worked in the past. It's not good enough anymore. Nor is it enough to respond to important questions with the same inadequate refrain that somehow, some way, people are going to benefit from trade deals. The American people have a right to know what's at stake in negotiations before they wrap up. Our trade policies are stronger when the American people are part of the debate and when their elected officials in Congress can conduct effective and vigorous oversight. Furthermore, transparency is also critical for a trade promotion authority bill. Once it's ready, that bill must be available to the public, and there has to be a fair and open process for its review and consideration, and Chairman Hatch and I have been discussing these and other issues. Finally, whatever a member of this committee feels with respect to trade, let's have a serious debate and work together on a bipartisan basis to find as much agreement as possible. My focus is going to be on finding new opportunities to sell red, white, and blue American goods overseas, helping our businesses create high-skill, high-wage jobs and growing paychecks for middle-class families. Chairman Hatch, thank you for the opportunity this morning to discuss these important issues. We're glad the ambassador's here, and I look forward to his views.